Hello, everyone. Kyle, A0Z. Dan, do I need to be all perky? Hey, this is Kyle, A0Z. Welcome to the stream.
We need to have some headbanging music.
I need an intro. Hey, that's Dan, WD4DAN, and that's James, KE8PZN. Welcome, guys.
What's going on?
So we are going to, I'm using a new streaming method. So if you can't hear me or you can't hear anyone, please, pipe up in the chat. If something goes awry, we might go blank. Who knows? We might go dark, as they say in Hollywood. I'm using this new streaming stuff called Video Ninja, and it's pretty cool. We're gonna test it out. So this is the maiden stream. Yeah. So tonight, I've been wanting to do this stream for a while, and I just happen to be so friends. I mean, I don't know if it goes, both ways, but at least I think Mr. Dan and Mr. James are at least, somewhat friendly to me. I mean, they're friendly to me whenever they're around me. I don't know what they say, behind my back, but they happen to be. Let me bring this into the scene here.
James, what's his name again?
Oh, jeez.
Hey, but you think we did hit them by the bottom over there? Did that go?
It's a manganese. Let's just go over some of the POTA stats of you two dingleberries. We've got James here. Look at all this stuff that's going on. And then we got Dan.
It lags your browser.
it's so many, it's so many wallpaper. But the real thing here is, so you go to the top hunters, and who's for 2023, who's number one? WD4DAN. You can't get any higher than that. You're number one.
In parks.
In parks.
In total QSOs, I should be. CW, I'm probably third.
Let's do parks. You're number one in parks. You're number one in QSOs. We're not going to do CW. Oh, you're number two in CW. How about that?
Wow. I blame that guy down there for that.
And then total phone, you're number one. I mean, Dan, come on. You can't get any better.
My good friend Toby is sneaking up on me on total phone.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. ACT2 Charlie Delta.
She's putting a steamroll on it. I love to see it, though. It's awesome.
And then we got James here. James, you're slacking here, buddy. But I'm not giving you a pass either. You're number two. Let's see what you are in activations. You're number two in activations. We won't talk about number one. You're number two in parks. You're number three in QSOs. And we're talking about activations here.
Well, the second QSO was a DXpedition, so you can kind of...
Yeah, if you notice that they only did one park, and they have 77.
Yeah.
You're number four in CW, which is amazing because you're a new CW operator. And then phone, you're number one. I mean, these are no small feats here, boys and girls. I mean, that's dedication. So what I want to do tonight is pretend you're at work and your boss comes to you and says, hey, we need to make a PowerPoint presentation. And he has no PowerPoint presentation skills. So we're going to fill this out together. I want the chat to put in some opinions of all the things that we're talking about here. We're gonna talk about horrible hunter traits and activator traits, and then we're gonna go to the good activator traits and the good hunter traits. And this should be fun because everyone loves a good horrible activator and a horrible hunter.
In a sadomasochistic way, yeah.
Everyone has got a story about horrible hunters and horrible activators. I know that I've got one. I want to hear all of your horrible POTA activator and hunter stories in the chat here, and we'll put them on the list here. But Micah's got number 1. How about that? Tuning up on frequency. That's number 1, right?
Yeah, you got to know how to tune up. That's what gets me. Most rigs default with a CW carrier, so you get that tone, I guess. Myself, I tune up using RIDI. And if you're on sideband, as long as I'm actually on your direct frequency, because your sideband, your carrier frequency is suppressed.
Right.
If I'm on your frequency and tune up with RIDI, you'll never hear it.
Also, you want to tune up somewhere that, unless your band, well, I'm going to say unless your antenna has probably got a Q that is wide enough. And when we say Q, we say bandwidth, right? So whenever that arc comes down for SWR, and maybe, it looks like a widened U or a widened V, right? You probably have got enough bandwidth on that antenna that you can tune up not on the frequency of the activator, right?
Oh, yeah. Even narrow antennas, like mine's pretty narrow on eddy meters. I can still get 810 kc off and tune and be fine.
Yeah. So let's go back to horrible POTA activator traits. I'm sure that, James, you've got a couple of these.
Well, my big pet peeve from activators is when they, it's kind of a dual thing, when they park to park you, but they don't even know their park number. I kid you not. If you're going to say park to break my Pileup, please know your park number, because I don't want to have to go back and look it up.
That is true.
And I can add to this. If you park to park us when we're activating, tell us you're a park to park right off the bat.
That was my other one.
Oh, okay. Yep.
If I'm running a huge pile and then all of a sudden you say, oh, by the way, it's a park to park, I got to go edit that entry because I've already hit enter.
Yeah.
I got to go back and edit it. So especially if you're in, a twofer, I really have to go back and edit it that time.
And that really affects me because a lot of people think that I'm the master typer or something, and I'm not. I'm a pecker. I mean, it's just that simple. I'm a pecker.
Got that on video.
And yep.
I'm typically 3 or 4 calls behind because I run a fast Pileup. I'm 3 or 4 calls behind. So when you do that, and I've done caught back up, and I'm ready to move on, it's going to slow me down even more. So, it kills me because people's like, park to park is not a call. Well, you know what? You have 10 minutes to identify with me. You're not going to get 10 minutes to talk to me, but as long as, I don't care if you say buffalo chicken, if that's what got into my Pileup, as long as you give me that call at some point, I'm good.
Yeah. James, are there other activator traits that you have seen? I'm sure that you have there's probably more Hunter traits than activator traits, right?
I could fill your list up with Hunter traits.
Yeah.
I'll try not to do that.
James is probably better to talk about bad hunters than I am, and I'm probably better to talk about bad activators.
Oh, that's a good point, Dan.
Yeah, because I deal with more. I won't say bad. Nobody's a bad activator. Some are better than others. Let's just say that.
Yeah.
If you're out there playing POTA and you're out there in the park having fun, okay, you might not be the best activator, but you're a good activator because you're out there doing it.
Yep.
The biggest thing, one that always gets me is, as a hunter, if you're an activator, make QRZ the last thing you say. Because if you say QRZ, this is, right when I hear Z, I'm pulling the trigger.
Yeah.
So don't start with like QRZ, this is Parks on the Air. Say it's Parks on the Air, QRZ. Make it the last thing you say.
You're gonna hear this in my efficiency part of running a Pileup too.
Yeah.
That is a good. I've heard that many times too, Dan, where it's like QRZ, this is Alpha Alpha 0 Zulu. I've already thrown my call out.
Yeah. And I'm sure James will touch more on this, but have a pattern.
Yeah.
Be consistent in what you're doing. Don't be all over the place. Like if you say Kilo Echo 8 Papa Zulu November QRZ, and you do that 5 times in a row, I'm learning how you activate. Don't
I'm
don't on the 6th time say QRZ Kilo Echo 8 Papa Zulu November.
I'm going to have to try to figure out where Dan has the camera looking at my list.
Oh, I got
And
one in there. But yeah, it's yeah, be consistent on how you activate, because it helps us as hunters a great deal, because I learn. And I can pretty much tell you if I've worked you a lot, I can tune right to your frequency, and I don't have to listen much because I know already how you run your pileups.
Yeah.
And it helps me a lot. So
What about those people that they take like 10 calls and then they call those people back versus taking one call at a time? What is your opinion on that?
the only I don't like it. I'll go ahead and say that just straight off the bat. I don't like it. But there's only 2 people in POTA that I know that are efficient in doing that. And that's Curtis, Kilo Bravo 3 Charlie, Mike Tango, and Dom, NC4XL. Those are the only 2 list takers that I know that can run a list efficiently. And what I mean by efficiently is they take a list and they get through it quick. A lot of people, they take a list, they might take 10, 20 names, and it might take them 5 minutes to work through that list.
Yeah.
I'm not sticking around. I mean, I might come back later, but I'm not sticking around, especially if it's a, like, say during the plaque event. If you were running a list, I'm not even going to work you.
Yeah.
Because I don't have time.
Yeah.
So.
I am on the short end of the stick there. If you're going to take 10 calls and I'm not in the first 3 or 4 calls that you are going to list, and I get 1 round with you. My ADD kicks in and I get 1 round with you.
Yeah.
If I'm not in that first round, if I'm not in the first, like if you're going to take 10 calls and I'm not in the first 3 or 4, I'm moving on. But that's just me.
Yeah.
That's just me. Yeah. But people do.
And you never know if you're in the list until the end of it.
See, that's the other issue is that I have is you have to wait there. I much rather and maybe this is the contester coming out of me. I much rather sit there and throw my call out 15 times because it's a park that I want versus waiting around to see if I made the list. Right.
Absolutely. Yep.
It takes me back to the days of PE whenever I was last picked for basketball.
That was the shorts. Didn't have nothing to do with your talent.
No. I mean, I can hit threes all day, but I was always last picked.
How many are you guys considering a list?
I don't know. You know what? To tell you the truth, James, there's been few and far between times that has happened to me where I've run across somebody that's doing a list. Now, I don't hunt that much. You guys have more experience with that, but I don't know. What is a list?
Well, when I'm activating, I mean, if I pick out some call signs, I'll run a list, but I'll let James touch more on that because I do it a lot like he does. So.
Well, maybe we'll get to that whenever we get to the activator traits on what to do and what not to do. Yeah, Don says not happy with a list. If you're happy with a list and you know it, raise your clap your hands in the chat. Yeah. What else? Horrible POTA activator traits. What else needs to be on this list? Anything? Have we run the muck on activator traits? I mean, I think
not IDing enough.
Oh yeah, good one.
Now, when I'm in like my last night at Montesano, I got into one hellacious pileup to work a little over 200 in about an hour, and I still made it a point about every 3rd or 4th QSO, which turned out to be about every minute and a half, I would ID.
Yeah. There is nothing more frustrating in a contest, and I know I'm this, I've got quite a few Activator parks, but running a pileup and searching and pouncing is like running a contest, right? You're like in a contest. So I'm using all of my experience in a contest situation. There's nothing more frustrating whenever you come across, especially whenever you're unassisted, you come across the station and they're just calling QRZ and you don't know where that is. That station could be in P5 for all I know.
Yep.
That's a good one. Not saying your call sign enough. So, Dan, what from a hunter perspective, every call, every 2 calls, every 3 calls, what's your
I might be a bad person to ask because I know voices now. Unless you're a new activator, I'm going to know who you are.
yeah.
But I would say, I mean, if you're running a thick pile up, every third or fourth call is fine. Because that's going to be every minute and a half. Run 4 or 5 calls. If your pileups, I mean, if you don't have a pileup and you're just out there fishing for calls, every time you call CQ.
Yeah. So, TJ says, horrible activator trait. If you have a big pileup, don't stop to do a QSO with your buddy.
Yes.
That's a good one.
It's okay to joke around a little bit, maybe take a little bit longer and say, hey, good to hear you. Whatever your nickname is, I'll be by later for dinner, QRZ. I mean, that's fine, but don't get into, it was 94 degrees here today and the AC's broke in the truck. Yeah. Now, an activator can run their activation however they want.
Right.
I mean, that's their activation. But
yeah, we got to make a disclaimer here. You're running your activation the way that you want to run it.
Yeah.
But these are just horrible things that we have seen over the years. But you do you.
Yeah.
You do you. I'll do me.
Yeah.
Be an equal opportunity QSO logger. What about people that everyone's 5'9"? How does that bug you guys?
Doesn't bug me at all. I mean, really, if I can hear you, like if I'm running a pile and if I can hear you really good, you're getting a 5'9". If I can hear you a little bit of trouble, you're getting a 5'5". If I got to ask you 1,000 times to repeat your call sign, you're probably going to get a 3'3". I really don't care about my signal report as a hunter. If you answer me, it's good enough because you heard me. I really don't care how well you heard me as long as I'm in your log.
If you are hunting me in the first 10 minutes of late shift, and you're a 5'9", because if you get through that pileup, chances are you're probably a 5'9".
Yeah.
Now, I will say, if you're QRP and you call me on an activation, I'll actually give you a semi-accurate signal report.
Yeah.
I mean, I actually take the time to look at the meter and say, okay, you're a 5'3", even though you might sound in my ears 5'9".
Yeah. There's in the contesting world, everyone is 5'9", and everyone says, why is everyone 5'9"? Because from a perspective of running, and so you're the activator, you're the DX. If I have to look down and figure out from the meter, and I'm not hearing you well, and I have to look down on the meter and give you an accurate signal report, that is 2 seconds or 3 seconds that I just spent, and I might have missed the biggest multiplier of the whole contest in that 2 seconds.
Right. It's a time thing, and it's very subjective rather than objective.
Yeah.
Like me and Kyle can sit right next to each other on the same tailgate, running different radios and different antennas. He might get somebody 5'9", I might get somebody 5'7".
Yeah.
Just because of the different antenna setup.
Yeah. So. Yep. All right. Yeah. Park to park and don't know your park number. Say park to park right away. Don't dilly dally around. Oh, I'm a park to park. Make QRZ the last thing you say. That is a big one, right?
Big. Yep.
Huge.
Be consistent in how you activate. There's nothing worse than yeah, I got a story. There was a guy that was activating the dry Tortugas, And he came back, and about every third or fourth contact he would make, he would say, like, WD4DAN. Like, he would say QRZ, and then, you would throw your call out, Alpha Alpha Zero Zulu. And he'd be like, Alpha Alpha Zero Zulu. What can I do for you?
Yeah, it's
And you're like, you're activating a rare park. I just want your QSO. I don't
you got
want
to
to talk
remember.
to you.
Yeah, you got to remember too. The more consistent you are as an activator, the better your pilup's going to behave, because your pilup is going to go one of two ways. You're going to run the pilup, or the pilup's going to run you. Okay, that's a very binary thing. It's a 1 or a 0 at that point. Okay.
Yeah.
And if you start taking calls when people jump the gun before you say QRZ, if somebody tries to sneak in there, if you let one person sneak in there and break your cadence, all the other hunters are going to hear that too. Or they're going to be like, oh, I can break in there too.
Yeah.
Now all of a sudden you have a train wreck on your hands.
Yeah. So don't let the pileup run you. You have to run the pileup, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Not saying your call sign enough. I hate that. That is one of my big pet peeves. I'm glad that we got that in here. And be an equal opportunity QSO logger. Don't run your friends' calls through your logger first. Hear what you can, pick out what you can hear, and work them. What about maybe this is on the hunter trait, so maybe we should move to the hunter slide. Yeah, let's move to the hunter slide. Anything else that we want to cover on the horrible activator traits? Chat, we need some input here. What other things from a horrible POTA activator trait?
Kilo Zero Oscar. Kilo Zero Oscar has a good one. What about carpet bombers?
Yep.
Getting them first to get them off the frequency. I guess what he means by that is somebody who says their call sign 37 times and aggravates the crap out of you.
Let's save
if
that
you do
one.
it enough.
Yeah, go ahead, Chan.
Yeah. If you do it enough, my logging program has trouble sometimes, and it randomly crashes, and it just loses your call sign for some reason. I don't know why.
Don's got a good. Also, always pause and ask for QRP operators. I usually give those guys a chance. Where do you guys stand on that?
I don't run QRP, so I mean that's a James question.
James, do you call for QRP operators? Am I putting you on the spot here?
I do at times. It depends on the activation. Most of the time, and I've got all this covered because I know you're going to ask me all these questions about running it efficiently. But most of the time, I can hear the QRP anyway, and that's it. That's in the efficiency of running a pileup is not hearing the 5.9s. You got to hear the little calls, the calls that are fading out, because you want to work them first, because you're losing them and you're losing that QSO. So if Dan's coming in 25 over and I've got a QRP station calling QRP and he's like a 2-2, I'm going to pull that guy out. And people's like, you can't hear that station. Sometimes you can't, and I will take a break every now and then, and that's basically in the controlling the pileup part. When I've gotten 7 calls behind on the logger and I'm trying to log, that's when I go, okay, any park to parks, any QRP stations, any DX, and I'm getting 6 and 7 calls logged while I'm saying this, and it's part of the efficiency. But really, the QRP thing, most of the people who hunt me, I run a pileup like you do CW. This is how I've excelled at CW. I'm just taking the same skills that I do running a pileup, and I've moved him over to CW. People say, well, I know that's Kyle calling me because I know his fist. Well, when you're in a pileup and you hear a certain tone, there's people I don't even hear a single letter of their call sign, but I know their tone. I was actually out activating with Terry the other day, and I was like, Alpha Delta 2, Charlie Delta, you're about a 2-2, Toby. And Terry looks at me like, what is he doing? I was like, all right, hold for a second, operator. And I hand him the mic. He still ain't even heard her. He's like, Alpha Delta 2, Charlie Delta, you're a 2-2. And then he looks at me. I was like, she gave you a 4-4. And he's like, all right, thanks a lot. And I took the mic back. And it's funny because if Toby thinks she's weak, she always goes into Discord and posts what you were. It wasn't 30 seconds later, she was in Discord posting 4-4. And he's like, how did you do that? And it's Toby's fist. It's Toby's tone.
Yeah. Yeah. Josh asks, how hard does the expert panel work to get down in the noise park to park stations?
A lot.
Yeah. I will sit there for a while. If I hear park to park, I will work to hear you.
I will work my butt off to get your call sign. And then I'll try to get out of you if you're in a single park or a multi-park. If you're in a single park, I won't work that hard to get your park number because the system's going to match it up anyway.
Absolutely. Yeah. I'll get the call sign even if I got to filter everything out and just sit there for a little bit just to get that park to park because, I may be getting 400 contacts that night, but he may be somewhere where he's not able to spot and he might be trying to get his 10th contact to make that activation happen. So, I'm going to work my best to get him out of the park the best I can. But if it's a single park and I can't pull out that call sign or the park number, I don't really worry about it because POTA will match one park up.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. I think we got a good list here. We're talking about it for 20 minutes. Let's go. This list is going to be never ending. Let's
yeah.
Let me go to a smaller font here.
You might want to take a swig of Dr. Pepper before you start this one there, buddy.
All right. So horrible punter. Horrible POTA hunter traits. First one, tuning up on frequency. Oh my God. That's the most ridiculous thing that please do not tune up on the frequency that you're going to talk on, right? You probably got an antenna that's got some bandwidth on it. Go to somewhere that you don't hear anybody and tune your freaking amp and your antenna up there, right?
The worst hunter trait period is not listening to what the activator's saying. If I say Whiskey Delta Station and I get Kilo 8 Golf Quebec, and then I go Whiskey Delta only, and then I get Kilo 8 Golf Quebec, I'm getting annoyed with Kilo 8 Golf Quebec here at this point. I want the Whiskey Delta Station because that's who I heard. That's who I've got typed in my log. So listen to the activator, and if you can't hear what the activator's saying, you probably shouldn't be calling him to start with.
Right. Yeah. Kilo Echo 0, Victor India Mike, the traveling ham, says call him when you can't hear the activator. That is another good one.
That goes back to the first rule. Listen, listen, listen.
Yes. Yep. What about in the CW world, hunters that send you CW at 30 words a minute and you're sending at 18?
There's a guy named Whiskey Delta 4 Delta Alpha November and a guy named November 3 X-Ray Lima Sierra. They will do that to you, but sometimes you just surprise them and answer back. But yeah, it's really, really aggravating. If I've sent QRS and you still do it, you're not going in my log because I'm not going to try.
Right.
Now, to be fair, I only do that to activators I've worked hundreds of times.
I am picking on Dan, and Dan and Joe both know that back when I was sending 17 words a minute, they knew that I knew their call sign good enough that at 25 words a minute, I was still picking them out just fine.
Like if Kyle goes out and activate, I've worked him enough. I could probably blast him at 30 words a minute, and he would still know who it was.
Yeah. I hear the WD4. I know exactly. I don't even have to listen to the rest of the call. I know it's Dan, you know,
Cool.
and I know Dan's fist too. I know how he's going to send. There's other people that have mainly the straight key guys. There are, as of someone who has only activated, I don't know, 80 parks, 90 parks, there are some activators that I know their fist already, and they're straight key guys. And there's one guy, I can't remember his call. I had to go back in my logbook, but he runs all of his characters together. And I know exactly who that is,
There's a couple of good CW ones you might want to touch on in the chat there about zero beating.
Yeah, so let's go back here. Sorry guys, the chat is great. I mean, it's going fast and furious, which is awesome. I'm glad that people have got some opinions here. Oh yeah, here we go. Todd says zero beating. Don't zero beat.
Not if you can help it. If you're on 60 meters, you have to, because you
Yeah.
have to keep your CW in the center of the channel. But other than that, there's no excuse for it.
So whenever we say zero beat on a hunter, what does that really mean? What do you usually do to not zero beat? Means that you are on the same CW frequency as that activator, right? And
Yep.
so then whenever the pileup comes in, all of those dits and those das are on the same they're on the same what's the word I'm trying to say?
Audible frequency is what.
Yeah, the frequency. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
The audible frequency, right? If you're on 600 hertz, it's going to come in at 600 hertz, right? So, Dan, what do you do whenever you hunt? Do you go high or do you go low?
I go high. I use my transmit delta on the ICOM, or if you're Yaesu, your transmit clarifier, and I go high. That's all personal preference.
Yep.
And I don't go very high. I go about 0.08 hertz up. So just enough to make my tone pitch different to the activator.
On a side note, Dan's very good at this when it comes to hunting. If he hunts you quite a bit on CW, he will literally go through the different settings and pitches and stuff to find what it is that you hear the best, and that's where he'll send to you on, because he spent a lot of time finding the ideal pitch and where the offset was for me to where he could get right through and break through.
Yeah, I got a huge list in my head. James is good at 0.08 up. Whiskey Bravo Zero Romeo something Lima, I can't remember. He's good about 0.03 down, and it's just experience working these operators, just breaking their pileups and what they hear better. Because somebody might hear a lower pitch better than a higher pitch, and
Yep.
just figure it out.
I hear higher pitches easier than lower pitches.
Same
Probably
here.
because, I think what is that called? Is it tendonitis? Tinnitus. Yeah. Tendonitis is in your wrist.
Right. Yeah. My default CW pitch on my radio, I can change the pitch that I listen to you at without changing the frequency. And I keep it about 750, 800 hertz. So.
And if the activator is sending something back and you didn't hear the letter that he sent right before he hit question mark, don't answer, because chances are it wasn't you.
Yeah.
You don't know how many times I'll send Whiskey Delta question mark, and then somebody comes right back with there is no Whiskey Delta in there. So if you don't hear what's before that question mark, don't answer.
Part of your call. Right?
Yeah. Whiskey 8 November India brings up an interesting one. He says he'll zero beat if nobody else is calling. Otherwise, he'll shift off base what the activator is hearing. I mean, that would, yeah, I mean, you're not going to cause a ruckus doing that, but I still shift off because if somebody else is listening and both you and the activator are both the same signal strength, it's hard for me sometimes to discern who's the activator and who's the hunter.
Yeah.
When they're not shifted off. So.
Yep. Yeah, I am guilty of this more often than not on zero beating. And I think that just comes with practice and getting on the air. And, I'm a new CW operator. I don't have a lot of experience. So I will find myself clicking on that, finding the spot on my flex, clicking on that spot, and I hear a clear or I hear a QRZ, and I'll throw my call out. And before I know it, I just zero beated that guy or that gal. Right.
Yeah. I have the opposite problem. I mean, I very rarely forget to hit my RIT when I'm on CW, but I won't clear my RIT value when I go back to sideband.
Yeah.
So I'll go back to sideband and I'll get somebody and they say you're off frequency. And, oh yeah, I'm still shifted up a little bit.
Yep. Going through the chat here. Let's see. We've got Don says this is about ham radio, not tennis. About my tendonitis. I've got. I'm going to therapy. I've got radial tunnel. Actually, I played pickleball tonight, but man, does my arm hurt. Radial tunnel. Look it up. It's horrible. I might even have to have surgery. Josh says, if a hunter screws up, don't come back with "I'm sorry" or "whoops." Yeah, that's another. Yeah, don't apologize for your mistakes, right?
Yeah, you get that. Like I know that a hunter can't hear every activator, so sometimes they might call on top of another hunter calling them, and that you don't have to apologize to me for that. But if you're calling on top of me, that means you're not hearing me. So don't call me if you don't hear me.
Yeah.
But speaking of horrible POTA hunter traits, you guys talked about the people who don't identify enough. And, you guys were saying every 2 or 3. I don't identify every 2 or 3 calls because I run mini lists is what I do. I don't write them down. I don't type them down. My pileups are huge. So I'll listen. I'll pick out between 5 and 8 calls, and I'll run them back in the time that most people call 1 call. But every third group or so, I do identify with my call sign, and every single group, I say the part number at least one time. So if you set in my pileup for 20 minutes, and then you come and you're like, "What was your call sign? What was your part number?
Yeah.
What county are you in?" You're throwing those 7 calls that I had after you. They just went out the window because I remember those, and you're messing with the whole thing.
Yeah. So let's talk about that for a minute, James. How many times have you been activating and you've been saying the park over and over and over, and the hunter comes back and says, "What's your park number?"
Every single day, every activation happens at least one time. Every activation, even when I'm in, like today, I was running twofers, and every second or third guy, I was like, "You're 5-9 into 5-4-3-8 and 9-4-5-4," and then you have a guy come right back. What was that second part number?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But what about the Pfeiffer in DC? Do you give out the all the park numbers, or what do you do in that scenario?
When I ran the Pfeiffer in DC, I had a copy and paste thing going in POTA, and every few seconds I was respotting in POTA, putting all 5 park numbers, and I was saying, "You're 5-9 in all 5 parks," unless you were a park to park. Every park to park, I made sure and gave them every single one.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. That's it. That's a good idea.
And then I wouldn't get mad if somebody asked me for the parks because I'm not giving them as much.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So, chat, what else do we need to put in this list? Tuning up on frequency. Oh my God, that is the biggest pet peeve. I hate that. Listen to the activator on who they're calling back. Don't just throw your call out there, right? Calling when you can't hear the activator. That's if you can't hear the activator, propagation is not in your favor, right? Not matching the CW speed of the activator, yep, or even whatever they say QRS and not slowing down, right? That's another pet peeve I've got.
To expand on that one just a tad, if I haven't worked you very much and you're spotted and the ribbons say you're sending at 20, I'll send to you at like 18 or 19. That's just me.
So. Yep. I had another one. Oh, yeah, and if you don't slow down, I'm going to call NIL, not in log. I'm going to move on. Yeah. Right? I mean, I absolutely hate as a new CW operator whenever they don't slow down. I mean, I can probably copy 30 words a minute at a couple of characters at a time, but I'm going to ask you for a repeat and probably get your number. And then I'm probably going to ask you for another repeat to get the other, the suffix. And I'm going to ask you for repeats probably 3 times. The first one, I'm going to totally miss it, and I'm going to laugh at you. The second one is your prefix. The third is your number, and the fourth is your suffix. So 4 times I'm going to ask you. You right? I could, and I'll send QRS also, but if you back it down to 22, 24 words a minute, not a problem. I'm going to be able to get it. I say 30. What I really mean is probably like 35. I could probably grab it at 30, but
This makes no sense to me. I mean, if an activator is calling CQ and they're obviously around, I mean, I can just listen now and tell you if you're 18 to 21, and if you're around there, I mean, why would you pull the trigger at 35 words a minute? It makes no sense to me. Now, granted, I've done it before accidentally. My keyer has been set on like 30, but I'm like, oh crap, and I don't want to move my key speed while my call sign's transmitting because that'll really throw your mind in a loop.
Why would you send at 30 words a minute, but you don't understand what QRS is coming back to you?
Right.
Or again, I can't tell you to people who don't know what again means.
Yeah. Don't zero beat transmit higher or lower than the activator frequency, right? That's for the CW operators out there. Don't send your call after a question mark unless you hear part of your call. So if I hear a 0Z, I'm thinking they're probably calling me back. So I'm going to send an AA0Z, right? And I'm going to send my full call. I'm not just going to send. That's another pet peeve is whenever I get let's say a VE6 and they come back with the last part of their call, I'm expecting them to send their full call, VE6. So guess what? I'm sending them another question mark.
Well, I'm kind of in a little disadvantage of that too because my call sign ends in November. So if I'm in a CW Pileup and I hear N question mark, I know it's probably not for me, so I don't even answer.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Actually, I think that's a bad point because it could be for you because anybody who sends in question mark is more than likely not going from in from the beginning because you don't send the beginning letter a question mark because you're going to get 50 calls back.
Yeah, for an N. But if nobody answers, the second time, I mean, they normally do it twice. N question mark, wait, if they don't hear anything. If they do an N question mark again, then I'll jump in. But yeah.
All right. Don't apologize for your mistakes. Learn from them, right? I mean, I could go both ways on this one. Don't come in there and be like, "Oh, I'm sorry that I tuned up on your frequency." The POTA activator is trying to run a pileup. He doesn't want to hear about your freaking drama. Right? Know the part number of the activator you're trying to call. Why do these always seem like common mistakes? Or not common mistakes, common knowledge.
Know its
Right?
call sign too. Yeah.
Yeah. And then I added this one. I don't know who had it. Maybe it was Grayman POTA. Who was it? Yeah, Grayman POTA said, using stupid phonetics in your call. What's the consensus on phonetics?
Okay.
Oh,
There,
here we go. Strap in.
there's two different consistencies on it, because if you're using really just outrageously weird stuff like, you know, orange, banana, apple, something stupid, you're messing me all up.
Yeah.
But if you're saying something funny, you're probably going to break my pile up. The weird stuff always makes me ask again, but the funny stuff, I don't know why I seem to catch. I mean, for example, one night I had, a pile up. It was probably 45 seconds deep, and just out of the blue, I hear quiet, no talking, and I just break out laughing. I was like, "Let's go with quiet, no talking," and it's November 4, quiet, no talking.
Yeah.
And but now here's the disadvantage. Once I hear that, I'll never call you anything again.
Yeah.
But that
It sticks.
Right, because for example, Kilo Charlie 3, quack quack duck. He said that one time to break my pile up, and then forever he tried to go back to Quebec Delta, and I say Kilo Charlie 3, quack quack duck, 5-9 into blah blah blah. Thanks for the duck pond. and and now he's just got it. He's like, you're 5-9 into the duck pond, and just goes on, because I can't unhear it. Alpha Delta Zero Whiskey Norway. I don't like Norway, but he's always said Norway. If he says Alpha Delta Zero Whiskey November, I won't even hear him.
Yeah. Yeah.
King Jack Queen's another one.
Yeah. Yeah. There's many calls that are JKW or JK Jack King, Jack Queen King.
Mm-hmm.
But the really weird hard, like the hard words people say, really, yeah. I can't think of none off the top of my head, but there's some people that says stuff that I'm like, what?
Anesthesiologist asparagus zero zucchini.
Yeah.
The first time that I activated with James, I guess, whenever I hunted James on single sideband, I would throw my call out there and James would come back to me and he would have, funny, phonetics for my call. Cause I used to say Zanzibar at the end. Right. And he would pick that up and, and I would just move on to the next activator. Right. I wouldn't listen to the Pileup. I went to West Virginia and activated a park with James, and it was like every third or fourth call had some type of weird phonetic going on. I was busting out laughing. It was great. Just all of the insane clown posse and quack quack duck, and it was great. It was very entertaining, and I should have pulled my camera out and got it on video, but I didn't. But it was it was funny.
Yeah. I use non-standard phonetics if I'm making a long-distance contact and you obviously can't hear me very well. I'll say Delta Alpha November, Denmark, America, Norway. Then Delta Alpha November, just so it's something different that you're hearing, and you might actually get the the suffix of the call sign.
Yeah. See, and that right there would throw me off. Even though like people from overseas will go Denmark, America, Norway, that stuff like that just throws me off.
Yeah.
But if you said doggy 8 November or something, I would hear it,
So we got a couple here. What about whenever a hunter asks you for your grid or your county? Like what how does that rank in annoyance?
Put the seatbelt on.
Okay. So now, this is going to come out to where I am the most loved and hated man in POTA. Okay.
How many radios you running?
So, I am outdoing POTA activations. Okay, and I get it. There's people out there that hunt grids and hunt counties and all this other stuff, and you could send me an email or send me your little card in the mail, and I promise you, I will send those cards back as long as you send me a stamped envelope. I'll sign it, and I'll make sure I was in the park in the county and do it. But if I'm running, 400 names in an hour, and you stop to ask me a county or grid square, and chances are I'm in some place I don't even know where I'm at because I'm 4 states away from my house. I don't know it anyway.
Yeah.
It's totally annoying. You can look it up. You can go to the POTA page and see where that park is, and you can look that county and grid square up, and you would know.
Yeah.
KE0VIM has a really good point. You're always asked that when you don't know what the hell county you're in.
Right.
Oh,
Ask me that on 99% of my activations, I'll tell you. But that 1%, somebody's going to ask, I'm going to be like,
That is a good, yeah.
How many counties and grids do you guys think I knew when I did my 42 Park Rove?
Right.
I don't get grid, but whenever I did a rove for Illinois QSO party, and I had to know the county, right? So that's the one instance where I know the county. But I guarantee you, whenever, like, I don't even know the counties around St. Louis. Like, I know the surrounding counties, but whenever I'm going out to, like, past Montgomery County, which is about 2 counties away, I have no idea where the hell I am.
Yeah, and James is doing his 42 Park Rove. It's 4:30 in the morning, and he's like, buddy, you're lucky you know what state I'm in right
now. All right. Chat, do we have everything? I'm sure that there's a ton more here. Did we go through all of these? Don't apologize for your mistakes. Know your park number of the activator you're trying to call. Not using standard phonetics.
And I don't mind the county thing because one of my local parks here, not far away, actually spans 2 different counties. So depending on which side of the bridge I'm on, I could be in a different county. So
Now,
this is what you should do, James. Every county that you go to and they ask you for your county, just tell them you're in Hazard County.
I'm in Hazard County.
When I'm in Bingo County, I'm going to start saying I'm in a third world country. We don't have counties.
That's right.
Hazard County. That's great.
Yeah.
Hey there, Cooter. All right. Have we hit them all? Are we done with horrible hunter traits? Can we move on to...
We could probably be here another 3 hours, but we might as well be, right?
What about how about this? Don't throw your call out over and over.
I was just about to say, just like in poker, don't splash the pot.
Don't splash the pot.
Don't splash the pot. Yeah.
There is nothing more. My pet peeve number 1 is tuning up on frequency. My pet peeve number 2 is whenever I call QRZ and you send your call, or you say it's mostly on single sideband. They're saying their call 3 times, and I hear every single one of them.
Yeah. Or somebody says like Whiskey Delta 4, Whiskey Delta 4, Delta Alpha November, Delta Alpha November.
Full call. Only once.
Oh,
right?
Eddie has a good. Eddie just picked one that really gets me when I'm at. Yeah, that's a good one. Don't say my call sign. So
yes.
if I'm activating, don't say Whiskey Delta 4, Delta Alpha November. This is Alpha Alpha 0 Zulu, because I'm starting to type my own call sign in my logger, and I'll start typing Delta 4 Delta. I'm like, well, wait a minute.
I'm gonna start hunting you. I'm gonna start hunting you when you activate. Now, like Whiskey Delta 4, Delta Alpha November, DE, Kilo Echo, hey, Papa Zoo November.
It never fails, dude. I'm out there activating, and somebody says my own call sign back to me. I said, listen, dude, I know my call sign. I need yours.
That happened to me on like my 2nd or 3rd CW POTA activation. I wrote my call in there, and I look down at it, and I go, "Who's that?"
You must be from Spain.
I hear Eddie. That's a good one. That's an excellent one. What? Oh, Kevin wants to pick a fight here. He goes,
as I said, you better make your font size smaller.
I slightly disagree. I once called the first time. Will repeat if they didn't hear your call sign. They didn't get your call sign. Actually, Kevin, you're going to have to elaborate on that. What do you mean by that? Put it in the chat.
The hardest part for me as an activator is I don't have the mental capacity that James does, and I'm sure James will touch on this. He hears more of a, not so much the call sign and letters. He hears more of the hunter's tone and knows who it is. Me, I'm a letter person, so I can keep 2 or 3 calls in my head. Like if I call QRZ and 5 people answer, I might have heard 5 people. I might have heard you, but I have to pick one of those to work first. I can't work you both at the same time, right?
Right.
So then I have to go, throughout the list. It's not that I didn't hear you. It's just I might have forgot that I heard you.
Steve says, CW hunters, don't send K, the pro sign, when throwing out your call as a hunter, right? Because I'm gonna put a K at the end.
It is annoying.
Yeah.
I'm going to second guess myself to say, unless you've got WD4DAN K. Okay.
See if I won't go if he's got DAN and then just K, I probably wouldn't put it. But if he was just Whiskey Delta 4 Delta Alpha and then he put K, that K will go on there.
Yeah. That to me makes no sense whatsoever because the K is an invitation for anybody else to call.
Yeah.
So you would say CQ POTA, your call sign K, as an invitation for anybody else to call you. BK would be back to a specific person.
Right. Yes. Let's you know what? We're coming up on the top of the hour. We're going to do a second stream soon on good POTA traits. We're going to fill out the rest of this. But I want to go back to horrible POTA activator traits. And this is really not a horrible trait, but I do want to get into James, whenever you are activating and the pileup is, I've heard some of your pileups. They're 30 seconds. They're 30 to 45 seconds deep. It is like literally a de-expedition, Cayman Islands, right? Secure Worldwide. That pileup goes for 30 seconds, right?
So you've been out of the game for a while. They're getting close to 1:45 now.
Yeah.
Oh my God. So, okay, James, what do you do? What is your strategy? Do you take the loudest call? Do you take the first call? Do you take the last call? And then I'm going to throw this over to James on how he busts that Dan on how he busts that pileup on how the activator is actually running their pileup. So James, what is your strategy?
Okay. So really quick, I'm going to try to make this as quick as I possibly can because I know we're coming on the top of the hour. Dan stole a lot of my stuff because he's a good hunter, but you got to control the pileup. You got to set your pace, and there's no wrong way to run a pileup. If you're a slow paced guy, and you go CQ, 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 there's nothing wrong with that. But that's how the hunter is going to come back. But I'm a quick paced guy, and my hunters are trained pretty much to get in and out for the most part. So when I get a pile like that, the first call I hear is automatically typed in. That's the first call that I'm going to call back. I will listen and pick out 7 or 8 calls after that. Even if one of them's a park to park, I'm not going to immediately go to that park to park. Whoever I've got typed in is that first call. I'll work them, and then I'll work through those 7 or 8 calls. Of course, if the park to park is in there, it'll automatically go second. But like I said, the important thing is to work those weaker stations because they may not be there in another round. So if I hear 20 people that's 20 over, and I know they're going to hunt me at the second call. But I hear one guy calling QRP, and I recognize his tone, and I'm like, Kilo 2, Yankee India Yankee, and I give him a signal report because you want to get him done. And Dan is right. I do tone just like CW, and I feel like that's why I have gotten good at CW, because most of my QRP hunters, if they've hunted me 50 times or more, when they say QRP, I don't say QRP station. I say their call sign and work them.
Yeah.
So you got to work the weaker calls before you lose them, and you got to be efficient. Sometimes you may have to listen to that whole minute and 45 seconds, but if it's starting to get later in the pile and they're all starting to be the people that's running together just to roar, you might just hear one call, work it, pop right back in, say QRZ, pop back out and do 2 calls, pop back in. You can run a list efficiently, but you have to go quick. Anybody who's heard my list, they're 7 or 8 long, and they're done in less than 30 seconds, because I'm just like Whiskey Delta 4 Delta Alpha November, you're 5'9". Kilo Echo 8 Papa Tango X-Ray, you're 5'9". Alpha Alpha 0 Zulu, you're 5'9". This is Kilo Echo 8 Papa Zulu November, QRZ.
Yeah.
You just got to be efficient at it if that's what you're trying to do. If you're trying to bang them out and get somewhere else, or just get as many as you can before they fade, before the band fades, you got to be efficient.
Yeah. Yeah. Dan, what about hunting? How do you break through that pileup? What are your tips and tricks of hunting?
Listen. You'll get familiar with how certain activators activate. Like with James, he can have a pileup a minute and a half long. I know if he hears just one letter out of my call sign, he'll pick me up.
Yeah.
Because I've hunted him literally thousands of times, and he knows it. I call the same way every time. Again, as a hunter, be consistent. Let the activator know who you are. There's plenty of activators that I might be weak 40 meters in Oregon, but they know the tone I say it. They know how I say my call sign exactly the same way every time, and they can pick me out.
Yeah.
Breaking into pileups, it depends on how the activator is running their pile. Again, this comes back to listening. If they're always saying station beginning Alpha Alpha again, if they're saying station beginning Kilo Echo again, if they're very consistent with the station beginning, they're probably listening to the front half of the pile. If the activator is always station ending Zulu, and they're consistent station ending Delta, again, they're listening to the tail end of the pile. And I would wait until the tail end of the pile to send my call sign. So it comes to listen.
That is a very good observation. If they are getting the prefix and asking for a fill, then you're calling right away. But if they are consistently asking for suffix, then you're calling later in the pileup, right?
Absolutely.
That is a very good way to run to hunt.
So until you know the activator you're hunting, seriously, listen. Just listen. You're not in a rush. It's not a race. Learn how they activate. And if somebody's spotted right now at 10 o'clock, and I'm sure somebody is, I can probably click on them, and I've probably worked them before. I already know how they run their piles. So I don't have to listen because I've already listened to them hundreds of times before.
Yeah.
That goes back to them being consistent on how they run their pileups. So.
And the consistency thing don't only work for activators. Hunters need to be consistent too, because if you're going to pattern me, you're going to pattern me with a tone.
Yep.
Because I will say the Kilo Oscar 4 station, and the next call I might say a full call, and then I'll say station ending in November. And you're like, well, where's he taking them from? I'm taking tones that I'm hearing. And if you're consistently calling me the same way over and over and over again, I'm taking your tones. So if you're consistent, Dan will auto key when he calls me, and I can literally, me and Dan can be activating together, and he can bend over to pick up his pen, and I can be like, "This is Whiskey Delta 4, Delta Alpha November, QRZ," and nobody knows any difference.
Yeah.
We've activated and switched the mic back and forth between the calls. It's funny because it was on a video that I watched recently, and Dan said Kilo Echo 8 Papa Zoo November, and the guy goes, "James the man," and I'm just laughing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, your cadence is not only is your call sign, but it's the cadence too, right?
It's you. It's your voice. It's how you hunt. It's how you hunt. It's how you activate. It's your calling card, so to speak.
Yeah.
And if you're consistent with it all the time, very rarely will I actually key the microphone and speak my call sign into it. If you're having trouble understanding it, I'll do it slower. I'll actually speak it, but very rarely will I'll hit my voice memory, on my keyer. That way, it's consistent every time you hear it as an activator. It's exactly the same way, and that's why. I mean, I'm not gonna say it's easy sometimes, but that's why I guess many other people think it's so easy for me to break into people's pileups. Is because they heard that tone all the time, and all they really need to hear is one letter out of that call sign, and they know it's me.
Right. Grayman POTA, I will put the link to these slides. Now, we've got 2 more slides to go. We're not going to get to them tonight, which these horrible activator and hunter traits were great. But I think we're going to come back at another date and fill in the good POTA activator and hunter traits. And maybe we'll, have as many on these slides as we had with the horrible or the lids. But I will put the link in the chat after we get done streaming, so you'll have these. So be looking for that. Yeah, I think that we're coming up here on an hour. Actually, an hour and 6 minutes. I wanted to keep this for an hour. We're dropping some people here because it's 10 o'clock out on the East Coast. But yeah, any oh, Micah's got a question here. He says, "How important is the state for a CW hunter?" Oh, that's a good question. It is not required. You do not have to send your state. Now,
go ahead.
Say you don't have to send your state. It's not required, right? But I like to hear the state because it's a quick 2 characters, right? And I like to I use the state in other things like contesting. So I like a quick QSO, right? I'm a contester, right? I like to get in and get out, kind of like bad sex. There is something about getting that QSO done and moving on to the next QSO that my ADD kicks in and I got to move on, right? I'm not there to hold a rag chew. I want to know your state, your my signal report, and maybe hello Kyle or hi Kyle, good morning Kyle, good afternoon Kyle, and I'm out, right? But the state also, I think, gets me, like, you could be in 7 land and I don't know where you are in 7 land. But if you say you're 7 land in Washington versus 7 land in, I don't know, Nevada, I like to know where my antenna is propagating to and where my signal is getting out to. What, Dan and James, what do you guys think?
Go ahead, James. I got something after that.
So, as a newer CW activator, there are calls that I do struggle with sometimes where I don't hear very well, and I'm pretty sure I got it. And yeah, you answered back when I called it back, but I'm still maybe second guessing myself. And when you put that state in there and it matches up with the state beside your name already, that makes me feel a little bit better right then off the bat.
That is a very good observation, James. I've done that too. I'm glad you said that because if I hear a call sign that I'm not 100% sure of and it says Minnesota and you send me Kansas, oh crap.
Well, just yesterday, I had somebody call me on CW, and I thought I had him, and I sent back, and he answered back to me on what I sent back, but then he put Minnesota, and I was like, this ain't Minnesota. And you know, I tried to get back to him, and he was gone after that. So I took what I had, and I went into POTA Hunters, and I brought up the last three, and I found where I made the mistake there, and it was a Minnesota station. So I fixed that log right then.
Yeah. Don says, but I'm operating remote. Yeah, that's a good idea. You know what you could do is, sorry, Dan, I'm going to, one more point. I'm going to let you have the floor. I record my QSOs, right? And then I put something in the notes on hammers, and I go back and I re-listen. End of story. Dan, the floor is yours.
I do a 3 check. So if I'm on an activation and I have good internet, not at Montesano State Park, but so what I'll do is I'll say your call sign. So I pick your name out of a pileup or your call sign out of a pileup. I'll say Alpha Alpha 0 Zoo. Kyle, you're 5'9" into Kilo 1810. Okay. I did 2 things there. I'm verifying your call sign and I called you by your name. If you come back and say, Roger, Roger, you're 5'9" and Mike Oscar, now I verified the state matches what came back too. So you verified your name was right, that I called you, and your call sign, and you gave me the correct state. So now I know I have that call sign right in my log.
What a great point. You got 3 points of 2-factor authentication.
That's right. And if your name's not Kyle, and if I flub your call sign, if I put in Alpha Alpha 0 Yankee and I say Alpha Alpha 0 Yankee, Cynthia, you're 5'9" and 1810. You say QSL, you're 5'9" and Mike Oscar, and that other person happens to be in Mike Oscar as well. That's your fault, not mine.
Yep, that's on you.
So funny story. I you know, you can't never tell because people's voices can be deceiving. And I had a guy one time, and he sounded like a girl, and it came up with a girl's name. And I even said, I don't remember the girl's name, but let's just say Cynthia. I was like, you're 5'9", Cynthia, into Kilo 1810. And he's like, oh yeah, you're 5'9" into blah blah blah. And I'm like, okay, you know, you sound a little manly, but I can't.
Don't assume.
You know what? Bad hunter trait. If you don't know your name,
don't assume.
And you don't know your call sign when I call it back to you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, that's my 3-way check. And if it doesn't pass my 3-way check, or if somebody, I mean, it happens actually quite frequently. Somebody will be from Texas vacationing in South Carolina.
Yeah.
So 50% of the time they'll actually say, I'm from Texas, I'm vacationing in South Carolina, which helps me out because I just want to make sure. But if the states don't match when they come back, I'll just say, let me verify one more time I got your call sign right.
Yeah.
Because I'm going to get activator credit, but I want to make sure you get the hunter credit. You know?
Right. And also it is, I mean, it comes with experience, grabbing full calls, you know, whenever you're running a pileup, grabbing a full call, writing it down in your notes or, you know, putting it in your logger and not asking for fills. That comes with experience, and everyone has got different levels of experience, and everyone has to start from 0, right? But, you know, also you don't want to, I lost my train of thought because that window sound came across. I'm like, what the hell is that? I don't know if you guys heard that. It was probably on my computer. But another, let me regress. Another thing is, if you're throwing out your call, make sure that you say it clearly and it's understandable, right? So the activator can pull that full call out and has a chance of getting your call correct, right? So, all right. Anything I gotta, you guys are being identify as, and then N1JUR identify as a flex. All right, we're gonna end it on that.
Jeez.
All right, Very good. So we will be back, not tonight, not next week. I don't know when we'll be back. Whenever these guys have available clock cycles, we're going to come back and we're going to. If you just showed up, we were doing horrible POTA activator traits, horrible POTA hunter traits. We got 2 more slides to populate here with the good POTA activator and the good POTA hunter. So we will be back to fill those out, and the link will be in the description below on this PowerPoint presentation or Google Slides or whatever it is. Yeah, Google Slides. And yeah, we'll be back with the number 1 hunter, and I'm sorry, James, you're number 1 in my book, the number 1 activator of POTA, North American POTA. You're not going to hear anybody else anywhere else but these 2 guys on my channel talking about POTA. So,
well, see, my whole thing with the number 1 thing is I don't even try to be number 1 in anything besides sideband. But if you look at the top 5 in all of those stats, there's only one name that's in all of them.
Yeah. We're not going to go there. Yeah, the random wire says POTA royalty. That's right. POTA royalty. Here we go again.
I forget who said that the first time, but it's stuck for some reason.
All right. For you new CW operators, I do a stream every 2 weeks, the new CW Operators Roundtable. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, I know that I run a pretty niche channel, but throw me a subscribe. It feeds my ego, and I make more videos because of it. So I'm closing in on 5,000 subscribers, and yeah, like to get there by the end of the year, but who knows? Who knows? But yeah, very good. Thanks, everyone. Appreciate it. And we will, what do I have later this week? I think, oh, you know what I have later this week? On Thursday, I'm going to be streaming with Roof. What is Ruth's call sign? We're going to be doing satellites, and she's a big satellite operator. KF4 AFO, KL4 AFO. That is Ruth's call sign. If you don't know anything about Ruth, go and look her up. She's a big satellite operator, and she's going to teach me a couple of things about satellites. So that is on Thursday at 8 p.m. Central. So tune in for that. I've got a couple of more videos coming out this week about Huntsville. James, what do you got coming up on your channel?
I got a live stream on Wednesday. Thursday at 4, I'll have a video drop as well. And there's probably going to be a couple of shorts out between now and then, too.
Perfect. Dan? Yeah, go ahead. Sorry, James.
If you do like POTA in any way, I would definitely come over and subscribe to my channel and check out my Discord, because it is the most active POTA spot anywhere.
It is. If you want to get a leg up on POTA, you got to join James's Discord, Ham Radio Venture Guy. I will put a link. James's YouTube channel is in the description. I will put a link after the show here to his Discord. You got to come and hang out. It's a cool time. Everyone's cool over there. We talk about POTA 24/7. Dan, what do you want to promote? Anything?
There's a lot of activations that happen in that Discord that are not spotted on the POTA website either.
Yes.
So just to let you know, you're missing out on a lot of POTA action if you're not there.
Yep. So, a lot of secret activations happen over there that get spotted. So yep. Very good.
Other than that, just hunt, activate this weekend. Isn't it Labor Day weekend coming up?
It is Labor Day weekend, yes.
Excellent. So we got Monday off, so that means a park.
Okay, very good. All right, thanks everyone. 73. We will see you on Thursday when I stream live with Ruth on satellites of the satellites. I just called it satellites on the air.
Very good. Yeah.
All right. On that note, we're going to say 73. Thanks everyone.